Welcome back. Now we have our shooter temple level here, and we're ready to actually fill this thing with enemies and weapons and pickups and all sorts of great things that will make this a functional level. So what I'm going to do is first drag in a couple enemies here. So I'm going to go into the _game folder, into enemies, and let's take a look at what we got here. So we have Grux, and our Grux Halloween was the weakest, so we can actually drag in a couple of Grux Halloween enemies. Now, we're going to start off in this little alcove here. So the Grux Halloween enemies can just be sort of patrolling around in this area. So I'm going to drag one in here, and I'm going to hit the end key to bring it down. Let's see, I'm going to turn my camera down to 4. And I'm going to simply rotate it around so that it's facing roughly right there and put its patrol points out to a couple of different locations here. And I just want to make sure that when the enemy is walking over to, say, right here, which could be one of the patrol points, say we could put the patrol point here, I just want to make sure that when the enemy walks over to here, that it does not aggro the player yet. So I'm going to go ahead and take this Grux Halloween, and in the details panel, look for its aggro sphere. And I'm going to set the sphere radius to a lower value because this is closer quarters, so we really don't need it to aggro the player yet. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it back over to here and put its patrol point up to about there, and maybe have its other patrol point maybe up on this second level. So that way maybe it'll have to walk up the stairs. Now we can test this out and make sure it works by placing in a NavMesh bounds volume. So let's go ahead and bring in a NavMesh bounds volume. I'm going to set it right there, but I'm going to scale this way up. So let's go ahead and zoom out and make sure that our NavMesh bounds volume covers the entire level. This is very important because if there are any places where the NavMesh bounds volume does not cover, then we're not going to be able to have AI navigation in those parts. So let's go ahead and cover the entire space with the NavMesh bounds volume. And if we hit the P key, then we can see all of the spots covered by the NavMesh bounds volume. So that way we will be able to make any adjustments. Now, take a look at these stairs. It looks like the NavMesh bounds volume is sort of broken right here, and we can fix that by going into Edit and Project Settings. And here in Project Settings, we can scroll down to Navigation Mesh and look for cell height. And if we take our cell height and increase it, then we should be able to see that NavMesh adjust. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the cell height from 10 to 20. And now we see that there are less breaks. And if we increase it from 20 to, say, 25, then we should see even less breaks. And our AI should be able to climb up the stairs without problems. Now, I'm seeing a bit of a thin slit here that might be a problem for the AI. So I'm going to put the cell height up to 30. And that's going to go ahead and fix that. So let's go ahead and close project settings now. And I'm going to hit play and see how this enemy patrols and make sure that it can go up the stairs and everything. So let's go ahead and just watch it. And it looks like the enemy is stopping right there. It's not actually making it up the stairs. So I'm going to go ahead and set the patrol point here. I'm going to bring it up just a bit. And I'm seeing that there is actually a sort of break here in the NavMesh. So back in project settings, here in navigation mesh, I'm going to take that cell height up to 35. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And let's see if that enemy is able to go up the stairs this time. Yep, and there it goes, and it's all the way up at the top there. So that's going to work. Okay, great. So that is one enemy. Let's place another enemy here. I'm going to turn off the visibility for the navigation mesh here. And I'm just going to copy this Grux Halloween over here and rotate it around. And I'm going to put one patrol point up here and one patrol point over here. Now, if we go ahead and hit play, we can see that we have two enemies and they patrol, they wait, they go up the stairs, and they wait up there. So that's looking pretty good. Now, these enemies are pretty weak, so we can have several of these walking around. So why don't we go ahead and just put, I'd say maybe 3 or 4. Let's put another one down here. I'm going to put this one patrol point over there and another patrol point probably up here. And so that's 3 patrolling Grux Halloween creatures. And I'd like to have a couple of things walking back and forth up here on this level and on this level. So let's take a look in our Chimera folder. Now, I believe it's the regular Chimera that was the weakest. I'm going to open up this Chimera blueprint and take a look at its health. And yes, health is 60, so this is the weakest Chimera, just the regular Chimera. So I'm going to bring a Chimera up right here. Let's hit the end key so we can bring it down. And for this one, I'd like to have it patrol back and forth on this level. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select its patrol points, and I'm going to put one patrol point over here, and I'm going to put one patrol point right here. So one on one side, one on the other. And I'm going to simply copy this guy and bring it all the way over to the other side. Now let's go ahead and hit play and test this out. So there's our 3 Grux creatures, and we should look up here and see our Chimera. There he goes, stops over there, and turns around. Let's see if they get in each other's way here. Give it a second, and they don't get in each other's way, so that's good. And then up here, we got the other Chimera. It's patrolling, and it's looking good. Oh, looks like we aggroed. We got aggroed by the Chimeras, and that's because as soon as the Chimera came over here, we were in the aggrosphere. So what we need to do is set the aggrosphere radius to a smaller value for these Chimeras as well, because I don't want them to aggro the player until the player starts to walk out into the danger zone. So there's a couple of Chimeras there. Now up on the 3rd level, I'd like to place yet another couple of creatures. I'm going to go back to the Grux folder, and I believe the next Grux up from the Grux Halloween was the regular Grux. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to double click Grux and look at its health value. And it looks like it's 100. I believe that's the next Grux up. So I'm going to put a Grux here. I'm going to hit end to bring it down to the ground. And for this Grux, I'm also going to set its aggrosphere to be a lot smaller. I'm going to bring it down to about there. And I'm going to put its patrol points on either side here. I'm going to have it patrol from right here to over here. And I'd like to go ahead and just copy this Grux and bring the copy all the way over to this side. So I'll have it right there, and it's going to patrol from here to about here. So there's an even more powerful enemy for Grux. And then we can have another enemy up here that's just the next level up. Let's make it a Chimera. And I believe the next Chimera up, I wish I had named these accordingly, but I'm going to go ahead and use this Chimera Halloween. I believe that's the next one up from the regular Chimera because it has 80 health. Let's put a couple of Chimera Halloweens up here. And again, I'm going to bring its radius in. I'm going to bring it around so it's facing forward. And I'm going to move its patrol points to basically either side here. And I'm going to duplicate it so there's a couple of these. In fact, I'd like to put one patrol point on the other side here. So that way they're sort of weaving in and out. I'm going to select this other Chimera and put this patrol point on the other side. There we go. Let's go ahead and hit play. And this time I'm going to go to simulate. And that way we can just see all of these creatures walking around without having to play. So looks like our creatures are all patrolling and waiting. And this is looking good. You could see that these two got in each other's way, but they worked around each other. That's one of the perks of using this AI move to functionality is they will move around each other. So they're never going to get stuck, or at least they shouldn't get stuck, hopefully. If they do, we can, make some adjustments to how we're doing these things. So I think this is looking pretty good. We've got plenty of enemies here. And I think that this is going to be a good stopping point. Before I end this, I'm going to go ahead and play as the character, see how this looks from the point of view of the character. And we can go ahead and start to aggro some of these characters and have them chase us and see how that works. Even just go ahead and kill a couple of them. So that's looking pretty good. Oh, we got hit. And we're out of ammo. We can't shoot back. But it's looking like it's not really all that difficult. So I think what we can do is nerf the character a little bit, give her a little bit less life, and maybe make these guns do a little bit less damage. And that way we'll have a little bit of a balance here. Also, it looks like these creatures are stopping short before we get into their attack sphere. So we need to adjust that. We need to adjust the acceptable radius for when they chase the player. So that's something we need to fix. So let's go ahead and go into the enemy controller folder and open our enemy behavior tree. And when we're chasing the player here, let's take this move to, and for the acceptable radius, we need to move this down. Let's put it at about 60 and see if that will make them come within their attack spheres. So I'm going to go ahead and aggro some of these and have them chase me and just see what happens if they stop short. Okay, that's looking good. And we need to see if the Grux will also come within a close enough range. Yep, it is. That fixes that problem. And I've run out of ammo. Okay, so that is looking good. That's going to conclude this video. In the next video, we're going to tweak some parameters. We're going to change the health value for the character and add a few pickups into the world so that we can have more items. I'll see you in the next video.